Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo!
Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday afternoon business therapy. This is the Do What Is Necessary live stream. It's coming to you from a beautiful, sunny Midwest Ohio, right here in Columbus, Ohio. So if anybody else is tuning in from the OH, drop that in the comments. Let me know that you're here, and let me know that you can hear me okay before we get into inviting our guest onto the show today, because we're going to have lots of fun. This is going to be loads of fun. But if you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from as well. I always like to see where people are watching the show from. And as you'll see, we'll get a global audience today, which is absolutely amazing. We've been doing this show for over a year and a half now. It's been an absolutely phenomenal response, and it's great from people like Robert Gibbons, who supports the show week after week. Happy to have you back, my friend. From across the pond, I know it's evening time for you, and you're probably kicking back with a cold one. But if this is Wednesday afternoon for you and you're still on the East Coast here in the States, welcome to the show. But let me know, too, one more thing. Let me know if this is the first time that you're catching the show as well. I'm always curious to see who watches the show for the first time. And as you can see, Robert's been here for a while, and he is actually kicking back from planet Earth. We appreciate you chiming in, Robert. So we do have Hank Jensen from Holland on the program today. So welcome, Hank. We appreciate having you. But yeah, we got a cool subject today. So if this is your first time catching out the show, if you're watching this on the replay, my name is Andrew Moon. I run a company called Orange Nomad, and I help turn hustling entrepreneurs into calm, unstoppable CEOs. And this is the Do What Is Necessary live stream, and this is probably not what you're thinking. This live stream celebrates a different way of life. We push aside that hustle and grind, all that work your face business norms that we have out there. But this is about creating a calm life. I'm about, in business, in your personal life, I'm all about helping create calm businesses. And that's what I'm dedicated to. So as you can see, if you're catching the show for the first time too, you will get a heavy dose of orange today as well. I finally picked up my Orange Amp t-shirt, found that in a guitar store the other day. So I'm super psyched to finally have that. So, all right. So Hank says he's here for the first time. Again, welcome, Hank. Love the first time viewers. Anna Gill, another rock star, fellow live streamer, Building Blocks. Happy to have you on the show, catching out. I think this is your first time catching the show with us as well. So we appreciate having you on the show today as well. Daniel Lamas, repeat guest from Mexico City. So thanks, Daniel, for checking the show out today as well. So obviously everybody can see and hear me okay, so that's awesome. So we got the technical stuff out of the way. But I did want to cover a couple things before I invite our guest on. We picked up a new sponsor this week, and many of you may be familiar with the Tech Tribe. But the good folks over at the Tech Tribe, Nigel Moore, has agreed to sponsor the show going forward, and I'm super, super psyched about that. So if you're looking for an IT community to be a part of, Nigel has built an incredible community over on the Tech Tribe, and he's negotiated as sponsoring the show. He's giving you 40% off of your first month membership. It's only $49, and the resources and training and the community that you're going to get by joining the Tech Tribe. I can't say enough good things about Nigel and his team. What a bunch of rock stars. But we appreciate having them be an official sponsor going forward. So happy to have that. So Anna says, yep, her first time. So thank you so much, Anna. And I welcome any critique and feedback from you as well, because the gentleman I'm bringing on as our guest today was also at Leap Into Live. So we're going to talk about live streaming. We're going to nerd out too, because we're going to talk about some geek stuff as well. All right, without further ado, help me welcome to the show my good friend Chris Timm, coming to you from the UK today. So Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. Glad to have you. And he's a fellow lover of orange too, as you can see. So that's kind of a prerequisite, I think, for being on the shows. You have to like orange first off. So, but yeah, welcome to the show, Chris. Can you hear me? Okay.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I can, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Orange is the way to go, right? It's a great color. So everything about me is orange, and we were just talking actually about your awesome microphone and your orange cable. Mine's exactly the same. So good to have a fellow oranger around.
I finally succumbed to the peer pressure. So Anna, you can tell Fulgens, I finally succumbed and bought myself the SM7B. He actually messaged me. There's an orange pop filter cover for the SM7B as well. So that is actually on order, and I think that's coming from like the Netherlands as well, there was like the only place to get an orange pop filter. But yes, sporting all kinds of orange today. So, all right, let's jump into our topic today. I know we've got a little bit, I've gotten some controversy over the topic of the show today is why your tools are useless. And Chris and I are going to dig in to talk about that today. Most of our show and our audience, it comes from a tech background. He and I both come from a tech background. But I figured for folks who don't know who you are, Chris, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about how you got started in the crazy business that is IT services?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So like yourself and many others, I ran an MSP business, an IT consulting business, and I sold that business back in 2012. And then I went to work at Autotask in the UK. So many of your viewers, the listeners, will know what Autotask is. It's a business management platform for MSPs, for IT service providers. I worked there for sort of 5.5 years. And then I went on to work at, after Autotask, I went on to then work as an independent consultant, specializing in helping MSPs to get the best out of Autotask and out of their tools and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, been around in the industry for a very long time.
Yeah. So tell me, since you said you ran your own MSP for a while, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So what did you enjoy most? I always like to see what really drove people to get into the industry and start a business of their own in the IT industry. So what did you enjoy most, and what kind of, pushed you into jumping into the IT space?
Well, so I've kind of always been a techie, right from a teenager. Always loved fiddling with computers, playing around with computers. Remember back in the day of having a Sinclair Spectrum, a BBC microcomputer. So cut my teeth on basic and really kind of got an enjoyment for computers in those days. And then kind of when I left school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career. So I figured, it'd be fun to just kind of do something in IT. And that's what I did. So I started working in a company just doing desktop support, computer support, like most of us. I got fed up with working for a boss, got fed up with kind of, the 9-to-5 grind. And I thought the grass would be greener on the other side, right? Little did I know that actually running an MSP business is a lot more difficult than working for a boss, and you work a lot longer hours than 9-to-5. But that was kind of what got me into being an MSP and running an MSP business, just because, I enjoyed the technical side. I enjoyed helping people. And I figured, I guess like most people, I could actually make a business out of this. So, so that's why I went and did that.
We jump into it for the geek stuff, don't we? We really get into messing around with tools and things. I think that's really what drives a lot of us to get into that industry. It's just something that we all have a passion for. But I didn't mention at the beginning of the show, if you guys have questions for Chris or I, pop those in the comments. But we're trying out some restream pairs this week. So we're actually broadcasting over on Chris's channels as well. So I wanted to welcome the viewers who are watching. I think you're broadcasting out to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook as well, Chris?
Yep.
Yeah. So we just want to welcome those viewers who are catching a heavy dose of orange today, for certain. But yeah, let's talk about the tools and kind of talk about where we have seen the MSP industry come, in the last 18 months since COVID started. What do you see as being the most pressing challenge for MSPs right now in this current environment and possibly going into the next, quote unquote normal?
That's a great question, and I think the industry's changed a lot. So certainly, everyone's obviously working more remotely these days. I'm seeing a lot of shift to people working from home. That brings a whole set of challenges of things like security and how to make sure that you're locking down systems correctly. You've got things like 2FA enabled, and that's also meant that a lot more MSPs have to kind of really think about and evaluate their tools. Those who might not have had RMM tools in the past. I don't know why you wouldn't as an MSP, but there are some who used to kind of roll a truck on site every time their customer called them. And I'm seeing a huge shift in people actually starting to use those kinds of tools now, so that they can actually remote into their customers and and do the work working from home rather than having to kind of go on site all the time. So I think there's been a huge shift into that, certainly, and it's certainly got a lot more of that since COVID. But yeah, I did start seeing a lot of that kind of happening just before COVID as well.
So let's kind of talk about that. We've obviously seen a dramatic shift in the industry going from offices to the work from home. And we've obviously seen the Pandora's box was open, and I don't think we'll ever go back to being all office environment across any industry, really. But what do you see as being like the business challenges for MSPs right now? Because I've seen some where there's been explosive growth because, businesses have closed or, for whatever reason, we've seen a lot of attrition in the IT industry over the last 18 months. And I don't think we're done yet. I'm starting to see that uptick that I predicted at the beginning of the year happening now again. But what would you say is the biggest challenge to those who are still running an MSP as far as day-to-day, as far as business? Like, how do they move forward business-wise from here, not just about the technical tools?
I mean, certainly, I think, MSPs need to, like I said, I think need to kind of really focus on offering security solutions to their customers, really kind of, working more with their customers around, shifting their customers more into kind of, working from home and having things like, potentially people using home computers or something like that, and how you can actually secure those and lock those down, because I think that's going to be a big problem these days. And certainly things like wireless routers from the likes of BT or AT&T, those kind of things aren't secure. So I think there's a huge market there for MSPs as people are starting to work more from home to kind of look at solutions of how they can actually address those issues with a lot of their customers.
Gotcha. So now, like I said, the title of our show, let's talk about the tools right now and why. Like I said, I threw that out there as being, why I think that our tools are useless. Let's get the context around. You and I talked before the show. What renders our tools useless? And one of them I found is, let's just talk about our PSA tool, our professional service automation software. For those of you, I know Anna probably has no idea what kind of acronyms and things we're throwing out. But let's talk about, I think, one of the challenges that I see when we do our coaching around that PSA, those who have a PSA solution. So I think there's a crowd out there who are still looking for a PSA solution. But those who have it, one of the things that I see is in the implementation. They're only using a tiny little piece of a PSA tool. So talk around the challenges that you see, because you probably see this way more than I do, dealing directly with PSA and RMM tools. Is that what you're seeing? What do you see as being the number one challenge for those who are spending money on those types of tools right now?
And that's a great question. And I actually do see that all the time, right? Is people will buy a PSA tool. For those who don't know what PSA is, I guess I should probably explain that. So PSA stands for Professional Services Automation. So it's a business management platform. So it really allows you to manage and run your entire business as an IT provider or an MSP. So it does more than just service desk. It's CRM and project management and billing and all of those kinds of things. And the thing, or the area where I see a lot of MSPs go wrong in this space, is they buy the PSA tool for the wrong reason. So a lot of people will kind of look at a PSA tool because they want a service desk. So they'll say, oh, I need something to so my customers can log tickets with me. So then they'll go ahead and they'll buy a PSA tool, and they'll only ever use the service desk side of it. So and then they never implement any of the other parts of the system. They never put in the billing. They never do any of the CRM and opportunity management. And when I take those kind of people on, the first thing I say to them is, you've got the most expensive service desk in the world. Because if what you want is a service desk, then go and buy a service desk solution, because there's millions of them out there, and quarter of the price that you're going to pay for a PSA tool. And equally, when you are going to buy a PSA tool, really think about, what challenges do I have, and is this PSA tool going to solve all of those challenges, or at least is it going to solve 80% of those challenges, because it'll never solve 100% of them. But and when I have those issues, or when I've identified those issues, then kind of look for the PSA tool that's going to best fit your business and best fit or best solve or fix those problems that you have, and then implement it based on that. Don't just kind of implement it as a service desk or something along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I see. They're only using it for one tiny piece of it. So I want to welcome Fulgens to the show. He's a fellow lover of orange. So check out Fulgens and Anna that happen to be following the show. So I know LinkedIn has a networking tab now, so most of our audience comes from LinkedIn. But click on the networking tab and connect with the people who are watching the show today. But Anna and Fulgens are tremendous, just tremendous folks. Go-givers. I've learned a ton watching their videos, so definitely check them out. So, I
actually want to second that. I've watched a lot of their stuff as well. For anyone who's using kind of Ecamm Live, they have a great channel over on Ecamm. So I kind of watch their stuff all the time. So good that they're both on this live stream.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was hoping to be at People of Video, which was this past weekend. I know they did a ton. I follow their Instagram channel, so I was living vicariously through LinkedIn or Instagram over the weekend, watching that. So, but let's get back to talking about like the nuts and bolts of tools. One of the other things that I see that really renders any tool useless is around the money side of things. And I know that is like one of the most underutilized things with a PSA tool is controlling your money and doing billing and automating that. Yeah, there we go. So he got a nice graphic. So talk to that. Like, what do you see as being why do people not do that? Like when I went from Autotask to ConnectWise, that is the very first thing I set up is the billing. Is how do we track time? How do we track it against an agreement to make sure that the agreement is profitable? And how do I get my money? And I still do coaching where, folks are been in business for 5, 6, 7 years and aren't automating their accounting functions. And like, to me, that's like the easiest thing to do out of a PSA tool. But why do you think that is a challenge? Like, what do you think stops people from doing that, from implementing that portion of any tool?
Mm-hmm. And that's a great question, and comes back to kind of what I said earlier on. And I think a lot of people choose a PSA tool for the wrong reason. So a lot of the people that aren't setting it up as a billing tool or doing their finances, and invoicing through a PSA tool is because they've chosen it typically for the wrong reason. So they've chosen it as a service desk, and they either don't realize that it can do billing, or they kind of know it can do it, but they're just not sure how to set it up. They don't understand kind of how to get the costs in there and how to get all the products and services that they're selling. So very often they just kind of keep doing that in QuickBooks or Xero or whichever way they've been doing it, and don't actually leverage the PSA to do that. And if that happens, I mean, all you're doing is like we said earlier on, you're just kind of throwing money away and you're leaving money on the table if you're not able to bill your customers.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, if you're going to grow, you're going to scale any business, not just an IT business. Like, everything revolves around cash. I mean, cash is king. And, when you have to chase, especially if it's 1, 2, or 3 person shop or a one-man band, like, that is the first thing that I implement is getting paid and knowing, and I still see, we were on a discussion yesterday over on the Tech Tribe, somebody who just, signed a client up, and now it's a month into the services and he's trying to collect his first month's payment. And you're like, that's a challenge. You're not going to be able to continue to grow. You can't pay your bills for that month if you can't collect from a brand new client. And granted, things happen, things get lost in the mail and all that, but I think there's some apprehension with MSPs around, asking for the money and automating that, where they feel, I don't know. I think that's the frustrating thing with the IT industry. We're looked down upon instead of, we should be viewing it as an elevated position, and we are. And that, do you see that too? Is there's a stigma around people asking for the sale and then asking for the money once they've actually delivered services? Yeah,
absolutely. And again, it's because people aren't running their billing through the PSA tool. So, a lot of them don't really know when if the customer buys an extra service like an Office 365, they have no way to track that because they're not putting it into the PSA tool. They're also not tracking the costs of the engineer, so they don't really know how much that work is costing. So it's not just the fact that they're not actually billing their clients. It's also they don't know how much that work is costing and whether those customers are profitable or not, right? Yeah. Because they have no way to know that if they're not running that billing and that profitability information through the PSA tool. And that only comes from setting it up correctly and making sure that you have all of the costs, including your engineer costs and all of that kind of stuff, entered into the PSA tool. I mean, it literally blows my mind every single time when I see somebody doing this. I mean, I literally get like this on every consulting call.
Yeah, and to me, that renders the tool useless, because if you don't stay in business long enough, the tool's irrelevant. Like, it doesn't matter what tool you choose. Like, if you don't, like, that to me is number one. Like, you will not survive, you will not grow, you will not do anything if you can't be in business next month. So for me, that's part of where I wanted, this conversation to go is one, it's not about the tool, that we've got to get that through our head and be comfortable with that part of the business, is asking for the money, getting the sales and marketing. We'll go off on a completely different tangent on that one. But I think there's still apprehension about people collecting the money when they provide services. And I think once we get over that, then the PSA tool actually works for you. Then the tools actually work for you, not the other way around. So where do you see? Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, and I mean, and again, I think part of that apprehension is like I said, because there's people have no way to know whether the invoices that they're sending to customers are necessarily accurate. So a lot of people are kind of sending out an invoice and making up how much time they've actually spent on the customer, and and a lot of time I guess are getting concerned that there's going to be some kind of query on that invoice because it's either too high or too low or whatever the case might be. So I think a lot of it comes from that as well.
Yeah, and it's just when people are 8, 10, 12 weeks from sending out invoices, I think that touches on that point there. The customer doesn't know what that service was that you provided 2 months ago, because you're now billing 2 months later for it. because you finally had enough time to breathe and get invoicing out. So, to me, I think that if you're an MSP, if you're a new MSP, like that needs to be number one on your to-do list for any tool. Is you've got to get right with your money, get right with collecting the money. And then, like Chris said, just being able to track the time, the resources, like the actual cost of providing that service. That needs to be number one, because I said, it doesn't matter what tool you pick out. If you don't do those things, you're dead in the water.
And that's the biggest number one thing I see is people don't track engineer costs through their PSA. So even if they have set up the, the billing and the contracts and what have you, they're not entering the cost of the engineer. And it surprises me, every day when I talk to MSPs that they don't realize that they actually should be putting the cost of the engineer into the PSA tool. And, after all, your engineers do cost you money, and they are a cost to the business. So you need to be able to track that cost, and you need to know how much that engineer or how much that work is costing you based on what you're paying that engineer.
Yep. I'm going to throw Ben's comment back up too. So he gets our cowbell for today. So automating the billing and payment collection makes it easier to ask for money. And that needs to be standard operating procedure for MSPs for going forward. Chris, how many vendors do you deal with where you have a credit card on file and they bill you every month automatically?
Pretty much all of them.
Every single one. And I don't know why, we are providing a very necessary service to businesses. It's imperative if they're going to continue to run, that we get paid. And like there should be no apprehension. Your customers are used to that being the standard operating procedure. Is that everything's on automated payment. And we were doing that back in 2006, 2007, when I ran my MSP when we were first starting out. That was, again, one of the first things that we did is automate it. So on the 18th of the month, I processed invoices out of ConnectWise. And on the 28th, all of the credit cards and ACH money was pulled so that on the 1st of the month, I now had enough money to pay all of our bills, pay our techs, and actually work on growing the business instead of chasing money.
And I see that actually quite a lot over here. So we use direct debit similar to kind of ACH, and there's a lot of the MSPs I'm working with now have certainly in the UK have direct debits set up, so they'll have some kind of way of automating those payments for the customer every month. But the problem comes in actually generating those invoices through the PSA tool to get them into your billing platform so that they can go out and you can collect the money for them. So I think that's where it's not so much a problem, I guess, of automating the payments. A lot of the problem comes from actually getting those invoices generated.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, like, I think that's probably the easiest part of any software tool now. Like the ease of getting that done. It was fairly easy. It was very intuitive in doing that inside ConnectWise for me. And I think the complexity of the agreements that people have and text tracking time and all that is a completely different discussion. But yeah, I think that lost my train of thought on that one, but yeah, that needs to be kind of an SOP on getting, how do you collect money? Like, I think that if, again, MSPs that have been in business 10 years still aren't doing that.
And a lot of the PSA tools, certainly the bigger ones and more advanced MSP and PSA tools, have got that side kind of pretty much sorted out. It's a matter of clicking a few buttons and running an approvals process and pushing the invoices through. So there's no reason why people shouldn't be doing that, because it's a fairly straightforward process. And some of the newer PSA tools just automatically do that. So every recurring invoice that you have for your customers just automatically go through to Xero or QuickBooks or whatever, and that whole process is automated. Some of the older PSA tools, it's still a manual process, but it's not a very onerous task. I mean, it's a few tick boxes and and an approval, and generate the invoice, and it goes out of the system. So
yeah, and it's I'm not sure if somebody's got their privacy settings set pretty high, so it's exactly what our LinkedIn user says: show me the money. So like I said, I think that's the first part of the discussion I wanted to have today, was just around like that part and getting comfortable with it. The tools can do that very easily, and can do it in an automated fashion where we don't have to worry about it. So if you're not using that, that would be Chris and I's tip number one, like that fix that between now and the end of the year, please.
Absolutely. I mean, and
ain't nobody got time for that.
right, I mean, nobody's got time to not use their tools properly, right?
Yeah. And so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we spend hundreds of dollars on, we go out and choose these tools, and we spend, hours and hours and hours of research, and then we go implement them, and then we don't, I don't know. I just, it's frustrating to see that when people are struggling, when that is like the easiest thing to do. And people don't want to set that up because they're afraid they're going to lose customers if they go back after the fact and do it. But don't be afraid of that. Like, I've never lost a customer because we went back and asked, hey, we need to eliminate some manual functions in our business. So we're going to automate our billing. And here's an easy way to do that.
Absolutely. And you had just mentioned earlier on about kind of just tools in general, in terms of, people using all these tools and not using them properly and losing money. And again, part of that, I think, is because in this industry, we're very much of a kind of a Me Too industry, right? So people will buy and use a tool because everyone else is doing it, not because it's actually going to be of any benefit to their business. So, they'll go onto forums like the Tech Tribe and other forums and ask, what's the best tool to use for this, or what's the best tool to use for that, and then they'll just go ahead and buy that tool without even actually realizing why they need it, or what they need it for, or how they're going to use it. So so I see that a lot. I see a lot of people just kind of just building up their stack of tools, and then and like you say, then they're just putting their credit card in against those tools, getting billed for them every month, and 6 months down the line, they have absolutely no idea why they bought the tool, or even why it's being billed for, or even the fact that it's being billed for, and they just keep plodding along like that month after month after month. So
yeah. So Ben Spector had a question for you, Chris. He said, what would you say the typical time taken to run the billing each month that would be before versus after doing it properly in the PSA? What is the improvement your clients see?
That's a great question, Ben. And so typically the length of time it takes, or the process, when everything is working correctly, is probably maybe a 10-15 minute time frame to go from selecting everything that needs to be billed, clicking a few boxes, getting that through to the billing, and sending those invoices out. So you're probably talking about 10 to 15 minutes. And you asked about, how long did it take before? So when I ran my MSP business, before I actually put the PSA tool in, it used to take me almost, an entire weekend to do my billing, because, I never had a proper system in place before the PSA. I used to, get back on a Friday, or get into the office on a Saturday, scratch my head, not know how long I spent. It was, I used to have these sheets of paper and saying, was this 2 hours or 5 hours? I couldn't even read my own handwriting, and I would just kind of make it up. But I would spend all weekend trying to figure this out. When I put a PSA tool in place, I'd go in on the Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and I'd be done by 9:30. All the billing would be done. Once I put those processes into place. So for most people, it's probably going to take them a good few days at least to kind of get everything in order and make sure it's all correct inside the billing, especially if you're manually doing things like your Office 365 licenses, and manually having to go in and key all of that stuff in, because you've got to reconcile that against the spreadsheet that you get from the supplier, all that kind of stuff. So that whole process can take a long time. But once you get it set up properly in the PSA tool, you're talking, 15, 20 minutes tops to get it done.
Yeah, that was the way it was for me. I had basically, we had a weekly billing cycle on Friday afternoons. I would go through and process any invoices for, anything that fell outside of our agreements, whether that's time or any miscellaneous materials that fell outside of our managed services. Hardware, we got that money up front. And again, that was all done. It was automated. Somebody orders equipment, we get the money up front. We're not waiting on our money. But yeah, I would literally take probably, again, like you said, about 10 or 15 minutes on Friday afternoons. I had a standing, recurring task to do that. And I would go through, process the invoices, send them out, and run the auto charges. And then, like I said, on the 18th, it used to take me hours and hours and hours like yourself. But it literally took less than 30 minutes to do all of our billing, just to go through and verify everything. But I think that's the simplification inside the tool that makes that job easier as well, is simplifying all those things with your agreements. Everything else can be automated and really easy, in my opinion. So,
and most of the, sorry, I was going to say, most of the tools nowadays, tools that manage CSP, all those kind of things, those automate the billing counts directly inside the PSA tool these days anyway. So
yep.
There's still a lot of people that aren't using those though, so they'll still get those those spreadsheets or download from the website, whatever, from the vendor, and they'll manually sit and reconcile that stuff every month or every week whenever they do it. But there's so many things you can do now to just automate all of those processes to streamline your billing and have it take 15 to 20 minutes.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, is I'll see somebody like the tools that you're talking about that automate like that one particular function, how to basically reconcile things like Office 365 licenses. So I'll see people that won't take on those solutions because they don't want to spend $100 to do it. But then they'll spend $60 or $70 on a month on like Hootsuite or some other social posting program. And I shake my head when I see that, because I would rather take the $100, invest it in something that speeds up me getting money than worry about posting stuff automatically on social media. Like that's not going to matter if you're not in business. So again, your tools are useless if you're not investing the money in the right place.
Yeah, or even worse, they won't want to spend $100 on a tool that integrates, but they're quite happy to let their their admin person sit for hours on end, kind of reconciling these things, or sit for an entire weekend trying to figure out how many licenses they purchased on Tech Data or one of those sites, and they'll sit for hours doing that rather than spending $100 on a tool that'll just do it for them. Automatically, and just bring that stuff over into the PSA tool. So, again, like I say, completely blows my mind every time.
So to touch on the latter half of Ben's question, what is the improvement your clients see? And for me, if I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing billing every month, I'm going to be doing something sales and marketing. So I'm going to be getting more customers. I'm going to be doing things like setting up SOPs. I'm going to be doing things that improve customer service. So, for me, that was where I saw the direct benefit. I don't. So, yeah. I think, to touch on that, I think this is Scotty Miller's. He said it happens across all industries. I've got a cleaner and a decorator that I'm still waiting for an invoice from over a month. Human condition, I think. So,
and one of the things you say, what improvements are you seeing? And one of the most important things these days, especially around things like mental health, people spending too much time in the business, doing this properly is going to give you time back with your family, right? So it's going to give you the time to actually spend on the things that are important in life, like you say, growing your business, doing all those kind of things. But equally, spending time with your family and your loved ones. Because I used to, like I said, it used to take me an entire weekend, and I would just be, out of seeing my family and friends for an entire weekend while I was trying to figure out my billing, if I could even figure it out.
Yep.
Going from that to, getting in at 9 o'clock, clicking a few buttons, and at 9:30 I was back home, sitting on the sofa, spending time with my family.
Amen.
That, absolutely. So
yeah, that's why I would spend Saturday mornings doing that, just because I knew the phone was going to ring. I knew tickets weren't generally going to come in, so that I would spend most of Saturday morning, every Saturday morning, doing that before we went automated. But yeah, that definitely saves time. So. All right, so those of you who are tuning in live, I forgot about our giveaways for this week. A couple things. I did want to, also, Chris said he has written a book himself, PSA Profitability. So let me throw that up on the screen. So if you would like a free copy of Chris's book, put in the comments, free PSA book or PSA book in the comments, and the first person that posts that, Chris will send you a free copy of his PSA Profitability book, physical copy of the book, not just an ebook.
I was going to say everyone except Ben Spector, because he's probably got about 100 of them already. So,
yeah, exactly. All right, let's get trucking on. So, like I said, I'll watch the comments and we'll see who our lucky winner is. That probably, and again, you probably already have the book if you're watching the show and have spent any time and know Chris. But anyway, we'll give away a free book to anybody who's willing to put in the comments and offer themselves up to take Chris's free offer. So let's talk about two. I'm going to switch gears on you and talk a little bit about what made you switch from go from MSP to working for a vendor to back doing consulting. What would you say is your learning process there, or your big takeaway from that transition?
Well, what made me do it, I think, was more a case of just everything we've spoken about. The stresses of running a business. Not getting invoices out on time. Well, until I put a PSA tool in place, but those kind of things, and just got majorly stressed and burnt out. And I then decided to sell the business at that point. And I was actually going to not do a heck of a lot when I sold the business. And I was approached by Autotask at the time, who had an opportunity available and offered me that position. So, and looking back on it now, it was, one of the best decisions I ever made, kind of going from, the pains of running a business that we all go through to actually being employed and just, having a salary come in every month. It was brilliant. It, gave me back my sanity, and again, also gave me back my weekends and time to actually spend with the family. So, definitely one of the best moves I ever made. And then, being a consultant, what I'm doing now, I actually fell into that by accident. So a lot of people who know me, I've probably told the story a few times. I never planned on actually going out and becoming a consultant for the PSA tool. When I left working at Autotask, one of the clients that I used to do the consulting for when I worked there, found out I was leaving and then asked what I was going to do when I left, and I didn't kind of know. So he said, well, actually, we need some help, and we'd like to kind of take you on to help us, get this product implemented and dialed in a little bit more. And after that, I kind of figured, actually, there's probably a business in this some way. And he then referred me to somebody else, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And here I am 5 years later. So it wasn't actually the plan to kind of become a consultant and go and do this thing. It just kind of happened by accident.
Yep. Yeah, it was the same here. Once I sold my business in 2014, like, I had zero plan. I just knew I was the same place. We had grown, scaled, sold the company, and like, I was tired. I was tired from, grinding for 10 years, and I was all bought into that mentality, that hustle grind mentality. And once age puts a few miles on you and you start writing checks your body can't cash, that makes your perception and your decision making a little bit different. At least it was for me. But yeah, Ben's gone the opposite route. Ben got out of the MSP. He's now working for a vendor and with Zomentum. So he's going to take some pitches for Zomentum. But yeah, we're going to be doing a webinar with them next week. So I didn't have the link up, Ben. So I apologize. But definitely follow Ben. He actually posted the link to the webinar we're going to be doing next week with Zomentum. So I'm excited about that. If like that would be one of the tools that I would have had in my tech stack if I was an MSP today. Because that part of it, going the sales and marketing part, to go from marketing to sales and having that automated, that was a challenge for us back when I was running my MSP. And like tools like Zomentum weren't quite there. I think we were using, what was the name of it? Quosal. That was the one that, yeah, they got bought by ConnectWise. We ended up using QuoteWorks, then went to Quosal. But again, it wasn't a perfect solution. It was kind of hodgepodge. And then, once ConnectWise bought them, that was around the time I was getting out anyway. But yeah, definitely check out Zomentum. And you probably have a little more experience with Zomentum as well. But yeah, Robert said new clients have to complete a Go card list before anything goes into Autotask, onboarding, or projects. So yes, that's again, that's standard operating procedure. So good for you, Robert. So,
and actually just saying that. So yeah, I mean, I Ben and I know each other very, very well. I actually do work with Zomentum. It's one of the tools I kind of recommend to my customers. It kind of sits on the other end of Autotask or the beginning end, and allows you to kind of manage your entire sales process all the way through, that whole kind of opportunity stage all the way through from kind of, lead to them becoming a customer, and then it flows into the PSA so it can get billed for and all of that kind of stuff. So great product, big shout out to them. And yeah, I mean, if there was a product around like that when I had my MSP business, I would have snapped that up and I would have, implemented that tool and used that every day in my business.
Yeah, and again, it's about picking the right tools and investing in the right places. And I think that's what makes the tools useful. Instead of having, like you said, hundreds of dollars a month being auto billed, and we're not using them. We're only using a small little piece of them. So, all right, I think we may have our winner of your free book there, by the way. So we've got Daniel Lamas from Mexico. Actually, Daniel. So if you, excellent. So Daniel scores himself a free PSA profitability book. Daniel, if you want to go ahead and direct message me your mailing address, where to send that, and I'll get that to Chris, and we'll get that book straight away out to you for sure. So, but yes, we did have a heavy-hitting rock star join the show just now, so please help me welcome Mr. Pete Matheson to the show. Joining us from over on YouTube. Again, another person to follow, tremendous guy that I've learned a ton from on the video side. So, Pete, thanks for showing up to the show, because that's a perfect segue where I want to talk about next, is what we're doing right here, Chris. You and I both attended Leap Into Live. It was a online conference. It was 4 days of like straight, just awesome content around live streaming. And you and I kind of jumped in some of the chat rooms over there. But let's talk about the opportunity that you and I were talking before the show that I think is wide open right now for doing things just like this show. And an MSP, I don't see anybody in the MSP space doing anything. So we made Pete blush. So
big shout out to Pete as well. I mean, him and I've become kind of quite good friends over the last probably 18 months. Never actually met him face to face, so that's kind of on the agenda. There's a lot of people in this industry I've spoken to a lot and never actually met face to face. So that's that's one of my goals still for this year at some point. Sorry, Pete, that I'm probably going to come and hunt you down and find you at some point and meet you face to face and take you for a beer. Yeah, and just a great guy. And it's really because of him that I'm kind of getting into this whole streaming thing and starting to use Ecamm and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, big shout out to Pete.
Yeah. So Pete was actually the very first guest that I had on this show. I had been doing trial and error. We started this show on April Fool's Day last year, like right as COVID started, and like the tools and gear and all of that. I literally had a C920 webcam and a Blue Yeti mic. That was all I had. And I just started learning and trial and error, getting better a little bit each week. But yeah, Pete and I messed around with doing some guest appearances. Like we messed for probably 2 or 3 weeks on just trying to make the stream go well. But yeah, I had him on, last year's. He's been on a couple times, which is phenomenal. But I think, it opened up a new area that would have been amazing if I was an MSP. Like, I have learned so much, not just about the tech, but I've been able to connect with people from around the world. And, I get people that reach out that want to do business with us because they've watched my show. Daniel Lamas is going through my class right now, my 30-day growth map class, not because I sell anything on this show. But he's been, watched the show for weeks, and he's watched a lot of the replays. But it's not just about business. It's the community around that Do What Is Necessary movement that has amazed me. And I think, that was a part that was one of the reasons I started this, because I remembered how I felt in 2008 when pretty much everything fell out. The economy fell out. I was 4 years into running an MSP. I had a 4-year-old at home, and I'm like, okay, it was a very lonely place for me. So that's why I started this show, as a way of just getting out and telling people, hey, you don't have to be alone. I know you're struggling. And that's why I called it Wednesday afternoon business therapy. This has been therapy for me during COVID. And I know I have people reach out every single week after watching the show that tell me the same thing. Like they were having a bad week and they watched the show, and I had a chance to make somebody's day a little bit better. And I think that was pretty cool. But I think that's the opportunity that we have right now as MSPs. Like, this platform has been amazing. So you've gotten into some, video stuff because of Pete and whatnot, but what have you seen, as a result of business and maybe professional, just acquaintances and friends that you've made just from doing video?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a game changer for me. I've started a YouTube channel where I'm able to, give advice to people that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to give advice to, or, being able to connect to people. And I get, I've only got a few videos up on the YouTube channel at the moment. But I have people contacting me almost every day saying, hey, I saw this video. It was really cool. It kind of really resonated with me. I'm not the best at doing the videos. I kind of, I'm not great in front of the camera, but I did a lot of these videos for, to really help people to kind of address some of the questions that people are asking. And literally not a day goes by when, I'm not getting some kind of comment from somebody saying, hey, I saw that video. I didn't know you could do that in the product, or whatever the case might be. So, I've made a lot of connections that way. But I've also made a lot of friends in the industry, Pete being one of them, somebody who's so passionate about video, somebody that I've really learned from. And, just every day I see the stuff that he does, and, it really kind of, like you say, it's that therapy, right? It's being able to kind of see what somebody else is doing and kind of go, hey, actually, that's a fairly, good thing to do. It's fairly, it's a fairly easy thing to do. And, yeah, so for me, it's been really great kind of meeting people like yourself. You know, I would never have met you if it hadn't been for video and hadn't been for a common interest in this eCam platform. So yeah, it's just great. It's been a great thing for me.
It's been a fun ride, like I said, and you know, I would have probably never met Pete. I'm like you. I've never met Pete in person. And Pete had great combined video with "They Ask You Answer" by Marcus Sheridan. That's gold dust. So definitely, Marcus Sheridan's got some great stuff. He's a fellow mountaineer, West Virginia mountaineer too. So love his stuff. But that's the thing that I have seen, you know, as being and I've talked to, you know, quite a few people. Pete and I talked about it. This is an opportunity to be different. Everybody's looking for a way to cut through the noise with sales and marketing, and everybody's looking for that shiny penny. What do I do next? You know, and just jumping from tactic to tactic. But like, I would be all over this, and this format is completely against my personality. Like, I am an introvert. I keep to myself. I would be very comfortable just, you know, sitting behind the camera, not in front of it. But it has been therapeutic for me to get out there, to have conversations that I wouldn't normally have had. And, you know, it's an amazing thing. Business has come from it. And it wasn't, like I said, that wasn't my intent. But a lot of people have told me that, you know, the know, like, and trust factor, that's what we all hear as far as sales and marketing being key. And this is the easiest way to do that, to allow somebody to get to know you, is by putting yourself out there. And like I said, the tools, I have gotten better with the tools. I was just, like I said, I was just like you. It was bad. I mean, Pete got on camera and like, just literally, I felt like inferior. So I think that's part of it. But Pete, if you have any advice we could share for our guests too, like that's what the advice that I would give. And if Anna and Fulgens are still attending as well, that's the advice that they would give. Just start. And the more you do it, like, the easier it has gotten.
Yeah. And I think as well, doing this, you know, it makes you a lot more professional in just everything else that you do. So, you know, this has helped me to level up just my Zoom calls with customers, right? Because, you know, like you, I used to have a crappy little webcam, you know, very blocky and what have you. You know, and on Pete's advice, I bought a super duper Sony camera, and, you know, the quality is so much better. And I bet you everyone on this call probably thinks I'm actually sitting in my front room, and I'm really not. This is actually a green screen behind me, believe it or not. That's actually just putting this image on. But, you know, you go onto a webinar or a Zoom call with customers, you know, with this kind of picture behind you, and you know, and the quality of the camera, and that just immediately kind of elevates you straight away, because, you know, everyone else is coming onto Zoom with kind of blocky images, or, you know, those you know, stupid Zoom backgrounds that kind of cut off half their arm when they move their arm and stuff like that. And so this kind of thing, just by meeting people like yourself and Pete, and, you know, people that have really been able to help me to kind of level up, not just in not getting out of my comfort zone by doing this kind of thing, but actually leveling up. You know, just talking to customers on a day-to-day basis. I do that through Zoom, and just being able to do that much more professionally with this kind of video. So,
yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. So, Robert, thanks for joining us today. Robert said he's got a scoot. We're happy we were able to hang out with you this evening. Yeah, so Pete actually did have a comment to post as well. Let me pull that up on screen. So, Pete says he's an introvert too. If you can get over your fear, wow, a video changed my life. Yeah, that's it. It definitely, it's done some amazing things for me. Like I said, you know, professionally, but also personally. And that is something I really wasn't expecting. Like, I wasn't expecting that type of transformation. But yeah, Pete said, yeah, I can't wait for the Christmas party with a room full of introverts. So,
well, you know, it's weird you say that. I mean, honestly, you know, I've spoken to Pete many times, and I would never have said he was an introvert. You know, he's I mean, you see the quality of stuff that he's doing. You know, a great guy, always kind of willing to talk. And I think, you know, I mean, I'm probably the most introverted of all of us. And I think actually getting a room full of introverts of you, me, and Pete in a room together, I think it'd be an awesome party, actually, because even though we're introverts, I think, you know, just this kind of stuff is actually bringing us together and making us less introverted. And, you know, I think it'd actually be a pretty awesome party. The only thing that would scare me, and Pete won't mind me saying this, is that hairstyle, because, you know, I'm looking forward to meeting Pete, but that mohawk, I think, is gonna
definitely unique. Pete, so if you're game for a live stream together, let us know. I'd love to have Pete back on the show. And hopefully, like I said, this is the first time we're using Restream pairs, so we're able to go out to all of my social media channels and Chris's. I would love to get Pete on and just stream that to all of our audiences, because I think we serve a lot of the same, you know, people just like us, other introverts, other tech folks. And I think, you know, it's time that we really get united to move the industry forward. I think it's a definite opportunity that we have. And I think that I welcome 2022 because I've seen a lot of change this year. I don't think we're quite done with the change. But I think it'll be an interesting industry going forward into 2022. I'm excited about the things that are on the horizon, some of the new players that are coming into the market, and just our different way of doing business going forward and how we serve our IT customers. So, all right. So he said he's in. So Pete said he's game. So we'll make that happen. Unfortunately, you guys are in the same time zone. That was the challenge we had with Nigel from Tech Tribe. We were trying to get Richard and I on a call together, but yeah, the time zone is crazy. Trying to get all three of us on there at once. We might still make that happen. So one of us might be either up really late or up really early, but yeah, we'll see.
Hey,
so.
we can alternate the times though, right? So we can do it at kind of daytime for you and nighttime for us, and then we can kind of alternate that. I mean, it's not too late now. I know this thing started at kind of 8 p.m. UK time, which you know is not late for us. So yeah, always happy to do it this time.
Awesome. All right, man. Like I said, we've gone a little over the hour, so I just want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you being on the show today and sharing your insights. And I'm thankful for all that you do for the tech industry. And you know, I'm glad that I finally was able to get together with you on a live stream to be able to help our friends, our fellow constituents here in the IT industry. So thanks so much, Chris, for being on the show today.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It was good fun. And look forward to the next one.
Awesome. So help me thank Chris for hanging out. We appreciate it, my friend. I will talk to you soon. And those of you who are watching this live, thank you so much for tuning into the show again this week. It was an interesting topic. We could probably could have gone and geeked out for hours and hours about stuff. Didn't want to end the show yet. Sorry, hit the wrong button on the stream deck. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us this week. I always appreciate those of you who tune in live. And if you're watching this on the replay, share where you're from. Share whatever your number one takeaway with us was, so that I can pass that along to Chris. And those of you who are watching from Chris's channels, I would love to be able to have you back on the show as well. But thanks for tuning in and watching the show. This has been a labor of love since I started this show. But this is all about helping people in our industry, helping entrepreneurs live a calm, purposeful life, and being able to nurture community through live streaming. So I'm always appreciative for people like Pete hanging out with us, people like Chris, people like Robert, Nigel Gibbons, or Nigel Moore, rather. But yeah, I want to thank again our sponsor for this week, the Tech Tribe, Nigel Moore, and all the great things he's doing over there. Thanks for believing in us and being a strong advocate of the Do What Is Necessary movement. We're happy that we were able to hang out with you this week. So if you'd like to support what we're doing here and the free content that we're putting out, I run by Caffeine, and I would so much appreciate it. If you just want to buy me a coffee, I would appreciate that. That goes a long way to us continuing to keep the lights on and keeping the content cranking out for good folks like yourself. But thanks again. I will see you on next week's show. And as I end every single live stream and have for the last year and a half, always stay humble and kind, and always do what is necessary. I'll see you next week.